morning, Greg. How's it going? I think we're live. Why does it always do this to me when we go live? And then it's like you're signed out of the show notes, sign back in. Are you serious? I need show notes, people. That's my... Yeah. I think we're live, and I just got a notification. Yeah. See, this week the notification worked. That's good. Boo, YouTube. I mean, nah, that's fine. Boo, YouTube. I think we have an issue with your audio. Yeah. No. It's not going to the stream. But it is bouncing, which means it's coming in. I'll fix it. Hold on. Hi, Dominic. Yeah, which means this should be working just fine. It might not be. Hold on. No. As a follow-up question, Dominic, do you want to hear him?
Thanks.
You're welcome. There you go. Now you'll work. Try now.
Yeah.
No, stop.
Just kidding. Can you hear me now?
Yeesh, this guy.
I'm here all week.
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you now. If you're going to sit here all week, I got bad news for you. I got other things to do, so I won't be here all week. Nope.
Okay, I'll be here next week.
Lovely. Yeah.
Right.
In 1 week, I'll be back.
Excellent. Well, we should thank some people.
Yeah, I should really remake this slide, but we'll just thank them.
All right. Well, Hild at the top and everyone else that are on the big Patreon list, thank you very much for being patrons. And if you would like to join us, you can go to patreon.com/3dmakeit or go to 3dmakeit.ca and you can click the link. And you can join us in our lovely Discord where we chat and share about 3D printing and all the other nerdy stuff. So, yeah, thanks, everybody. Yeah, so...
you're the best, everybody.
You are 1 year older, sir. Yep. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I mean, it's sure an honor to be on the planet still, I guess.
Some days it's debatable when I see some of the politics stuff, but we won't get into that.
That's why this isn't a political channel.
Hey, that's good. We can get away from that.
Dodge that bullet right there. Woo-hoo. Or did we? I don't know.
Maybe. But yeah, so happy birthday. Okay. Yeah, we have some news and stuff and things and that we can talk about, and I don't know if there's one that tickles your fancy you want to start with.
Well, like I think this one down here maybe. Let's do this one first. So
okay,
as you know, I got a couple lasers. Pew 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 pew. Well, okay, like we have a couple lasers because they're not technically mine.
Well, I don't have any.
Well, yeah, like I share them with my wife in the house.
Would I like a laser? Yes.
Heck yeah.
Would I like to play with David's lasers?
Sure.
Yes. But I haven't gone over to his house to play with his lasers.
You gotta play with lasers. So I have a CO2 laser, and then I also have a blue light laser.
Okay. So just to start it off, for people who don't play with lasers, what is the 5-second synopsis of the benefits or detriments of CO2 versus
Mm-hmm.
LED.
Yeah, like it's really material, right? It comes down to what you want to cut and how you want to etch or cut. Like for example, a blue light laser is pretty useless when it comes to doing like clear acrylics or anything like that. But a
So,
CO2
so if it
one
was
is
like
good.
a black acrylic, it would work. But if it's transparent, no luck.
Yeah, like, and even it's kind of dubious with black. There's ways you can get them to work. So, like, let's say you wanted to etch like a picture into the acrylic, and you had a blue light laser. Uh, we've played around with like black temper paints, Sharpies, and that kind of stuff, just to
Mhm.
put a darker surface on, and that
Right.
does seem to work a little bit, um, just for etching. But cutting would be really hard unless it was black. It's just the light gets reflected off, and that's it. Where CO2 is of
Does
a
it
different
does it just like
wavelength.
does it like melt it weird because it's still going through it and
Well,
interacting somewhat?
so think about it this way, like to
Is it
the
like taking a
wavelength.
lighter to it?
Yeah, basically. I mean, like the wavelength of the blue light laser um is still close to the visible spectrum, because you can, like, obviously don't stare at your laser. Okay, I'm not saying that.
That's why you have enclosures for that. Yeah.
Yes, both of them are enclosed. But like when you're looking at a piece of acrylic, if you can see through it, so can your laser. So like the CO2 lasers are on a different wavelength. You cannot see like any bits of color coming from that laser, right? It's completely outside of the visible spectrum, which means it has a better chance of not going through where other objects. It's kind of interesting because like if you wanted to do a metal etching, like put a name on something,
Mhm.
or say change a medical alert bracelet or something like that, you would use the blue light laser probably. But
Okay.
you'd want a test piece because blue light lasers have like a cool side effect when you're etching a lot of metals. And if you go, if it varies by power and speed, but you can change the color of the item that's etched on the metal. So like you
Mm,
could etch something in blue or purple or yellow with knowing the right, settings to dial that into.
right.
So um the both of the lasers get used, and like those Christmas ornaments were on a diode laser because you could etch the inside of that the ones we did had that red surface,
Right.
and so you could etch that. But like, yeah, so to each their own purpose. So now when we go to, I say we, and that's a very strong word.
When Stacy goes to
She'll go like and use the CO2 laser to cut like those acrylic pieces and signs and that stuff. Both lasers are just kind of like really shadily vented out the window. But we did add an air purifier to the garage, which, if you're running it, does keep the particulates normal the whole time. Even while she's doing resin, it doesn't really, like, it can keep up with those kind of
those
fumes too.
fumes. Yeah.
So, like, you still want to wear a respirator if you're doing like the resin specific crafts. But,
Right.
um, and then the other one that I've been kind of toying with in the back of my mind, and it might show up one day, is a fiber laser.
A
So,
fiber laser.
yeah. So those ones are usually the ones you'll see on YouTube, like when if they're cleaning a coin and like you see the laser go vizoo,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
vizoo.
Oh,
They,
I think I've seen them like clean rust off of cars
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah,
So,
that's those, and
yeah,
like
they have like a handle
yeah,
and what and they're like
yeah,
and there's a
that's them.
stripe of clean.
100%. They use them on boats too, like for the underneath on the hull. But like obviously, for my purposes, it's not cleaning a boat. It's burning, and so the fiber laser, its trick is it doesn't move like obviously there's a focusing mirror that moves the lasers around,
Yeah, but
but
you choose where your that line or whatever is
yes,
going.
you choose where it's going, but there's no X and Y carriage on it.
Yeah,
The laser head.
I'm sure you could probably do that, but
Well, but that's the point of them, is not to have a carriage. They're statically set, and then they change the angle of incidence as they reflect the light into the object.
right.
So like yeah, like they're cool. You can do like, yeah, if you wanted to etch on your car or something. Obviously, you don't want to hold up like a 500 by 500 laser diode thing and wait
You
for it
want
to
to
go.
like, dude,
Woo, 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 woo.
come
That'd be
on.
bad. No, it's not on my list of fun things to do. And like you can get in, like in Canada, you can get in on them around $500 or less. I think right now there's one about 480, and then the sky's the limit. Hey, ouch. Good morning, Raymond. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So that's kind of like the story with lasers, but the reason we're blabbing about lasers here, Lightburn has reached version 2 in its release candidate. And if you don't know what Lightburn is, um, it's the, if you're to akin it to like a 3D printing product, it's the useful version of Simplified. Um, it's
It's
the,
it's
it's a
it's it's
paid,
it's like a slicer for lasers, kind of.
yeah, so it's a paid version of a job organizer or an orchestrator for your laser. So it actually has more tricks in the box than just for a laser. It can do SVG editing as well. So if you're doing stuff for any kind of cutting and you want to make an outline like for a paper cutter, like a vinyl cutter or anything like that, you can adapt this program to use it. Or if you need to edit an SVG or DXF flat file, this can do it as well, and it can make simple things. It's very job orientated.
There's a what's the free one? There's a free software
so
as well.
so and yes, that's a good point. This is paid. I did install it, and you can use the release candidate under your trial, but like it's a licensable thing. So the cost for like this is about $80. I think is what I paid for it Canadian.
Not outrageous.
No, but the free ones, like you mentioned, so there's Laser Gerbil, it's called. So lots of laser controllers in the sub $2,000 range. We'll
Use
say
Gerbil
use
controllers.
Gerbil controllers, right? And like we've run across devices like that plasma cutter. You could use Lightburn on the plasma cutter too. But like most things that use Gerbil can support like Gerbil control. There's another product that's free called Candle.
Yeah,
Ca-
that's the one I was thinking of. Candle.
yeah, and Candle's cool because you can run it on a server, like a web server, and then like you just use a web interface with it as well, and then it can control the printer. The Lightburn really steals the show because it supports a
It's a
lot
tool
of
set.
feature sets. Yeah, like
Yeah.
if you wanted to just say, "Oh, I'm gonna do tumblers today, so I need to have my rotary set up," Lightburn can easily do that for you,
Hmm.
right? Like there's settings built right into Lightburn, and then it lets you continue
You don't have
on.
to jump as through as many hoops to get your tool your rotary tool set up
Right.
on your laser and whatnot.
Yeah,
Like
like
you
it's
just say I have it, it's ready,
yep.
and then away I go.
Obviously, you have to remember what setting is. That's the fun part. But like
but
once
but
you could do that, it's
but
pretty good.
and we're at 2.0, and like if you look at our Prusa slicers and our bamboos and whatnot, we're at version 10 basically compared to where we started,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like they're way more mature. So Lightburn is at 2, so
Yeah,
it's matured quite a bit,
and
since the beginning days. So
so
yeah,
like I do have the screen share up of Lightburn just really quick. Like you can do lots of primitive drawing. Like if you're doing like a Photoshop and you need to
it
make a
has
goof.
dark mode now.
Yes, dark
That's
mode's
the most
trans.
important feature.
If it doesn't have dark mode, but you can see like I can
It makes
make
it faster.
it does make it faster. They've improved the interactions too with when you need to click and grab something like this. It used to be really slow or you had to really specifically click. The job mode windows are the same, so you can control your printer, you can jog it, everything's on the right hand side here. You can set the power for your laser based off of the laser lines. The one thing that gets a lot of people when you start using Lightburn is it's like if you want something to have a different operation, let's see, can I just, yeah, okay, so I have this square and I have my R that I built. So if I wanted a different operation for both these, it's all done in the layers down here. So don't use T1, T2 because those are for tools, but any other color I can click on. So if I click my square, right, and then I can start adding and you can see it adds in the right corner here. So
So
now I
those
can,
are different processes for or different cuts. So it'll finish the
yeah,
one cut, then it moves to the next cut.
yeah, exactly. Or if like
Right.
I need it, I want it to, like, let's say I wanted it to cut that J out, but then just etch this square into it right at the bottom. It's pretty easy. I can just
You'd probably want
pop
to etch
in
the
and
square first before you cut it out.
probably and so then you can drag these around too in your layer model to make sure the operations happen, and then you can do preview the cut process. So right now it's set to cut everything. So you can see it does the square first, and then it does the R in the preview there. So that's the other thing. Like in 2.0, it's very similar. They changed the look of all these icons, and they changed the look of some of these icons.
They're just trying to modernize it.
Yeah, and then the window up here
They
is
probably have
they've
to do that
reordered
so
this.
that it's compatible with dark mode. So they're like, if we're remaking icons for dark mode, let's just make new icons all around.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and you can group stuff too and move them, and it gets pretty powerful for templating because like I set up, for example, like coaster templates for my wife to use there. So then it's like there's just like a bunch of circles, and then she can go and add whatever images or stuff into those templated circles, and those don't get cut. They're just so like if I draw my square again or a circle, huh? Ellipsis. So I could draw a couple of these, right? And if I don't output on the right, it doesn't burn. So if I looked at the preview now, it says there's nothing output and won't do anything, right? So those are just basically the same thing as like using construction lines in Fusion now.
Oh,
It's
okay,
it's a
cool.
template. So that's kind of like that's what Lightburn looks like. Candle looks similar. Gribble control looks a little bit easier. There's less options. The more you go away from this, and again, you can use the demo. You can try it out. It's a powerful piece of software. If you own a laser, you should probably own it. You will save yourself tons of time, and as a bonus, you'll be able to get cutting because almost every like tutorial you search out uses Lightburn. So
So so it's like, all right, let's do it anyway. So cool. Yeah,
might as
so
well get it
we
done.
we thought that was new and whatnot, so we thought we'd
Mm-hmm.
mention it because pew pew lasers.
Pew 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 pew. I love lasers.
All right, are we going to the next one in the list, or are we
Yeah,
jumping around?
let's go in order. I'll move this one up. I'll move the last one up, and then we can do it right there. So, go ahead. Click this.
So Bamboo
Yay.
is in the news again.
Well,
They have decided to, on their maker world, to be able to have commercially sold items. So if you want to find an item that you can actually license and resell and whatnot, you can purchase a model from a maker now and whatnot. So they've added that piece onto it. But there are requirements like you need to have so many models on
I think it's
your
like
on
200, isn't it?
it's like
Something like that.
600 models. I think is kind of where it is. 200 there is a 200 and
200,
600.
200 followers and 600
Yes,
prints.
600 models. Yeah.
No, no,
And
no,
then,
prints. So like you could have one model that's been like they printed
oh,
600
I
times.
misunderstood that. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought it was like you had to have 600 models. Okay.
that'd be crazy.
My bad. Well, then it
Uh,
would be crazy. But you have to have some followers. You have to build up kind of your brand a bit. And then you can basically, and then at that point you can monetize it. So it it's kind of like what you were saying, David, when we were chatting before. There are other sites that do this. They've
yeah,
now just integrated it into their site. So you
yeah,
could still do all the free stuff that they always had and whatnot. But now you're going to run into certain models that if you really want them and they meet the criteria, you'll have to pay for if you
yeah.
want. So it's they're trying to make it a one-stop shop for so that you don't have to go out to the third parties.
Yeah, very much like YouTube. You're not wrong, Alex.
Yeah.
Very much like YouTube.
Yeah.
With that, with the license adding, they have added a commercial. None of my buttons work. Hold on.
Subscription thing.
So like there's a wizard. See, here's the wizard. And so then you go through on how you want to use it and set all the attributions, set the license through their wizard,
Yeah.
and then you can
Yeah.
generate it.
It assists you so that you license your product correctly for sale.
I'm ambivalent, I guess is the word on this
Yeah.
one.
I
I
mean,
don't think it's bad.
it
I don't
doesn't
think it's
affect me because I
no.
don't sell models.
I mean, the one thing that we might see is, and it doesn't 100% say this yet, is that it could make a paywall inside of, because it is a subscription. But I think they're gearing it towards the people that run these print farms. They're just like socking out, hundreds of
Yeah.
flexible whatevers a day and selling them on Etsy. It's a place
Well,
now where they can
this kind
support
of
the.
yeah, it replaces Etsy in a way, or uh Cult 3D, right? They're trying to
Mm,
compete with that in a way.
well, you're
Uh,
not. But you're not,
because
you're selling the license to the file to print it to use it how you want, right? Like I could go there, pay
well,
my
it
ten
depends on
dollars,
what
and then
the
get a
licensing.
commercial.
Like you may buy it, but you can't modify it.
Well, you 100%. But I'm just saying, like they're
Yeah.
not. It's not Etsy directly because it's not like the commercial license holder isn't the one printing it and then giving it to you. You could go to
Right.
the website, buy
Well,
it,
but
and then sell it on whatever platform you wanted. That's
right.
what this is doing.
Whereas like something like cults, you're buying a model for yourself to print, right?
No,
A
you
high
can
quality
buy
model.
yes and
You're
no.
buying a high quality model, but like
Yeah, it depends on the attribution on there too, but
right.
yes. Lots of and I think and then that's where this is good. Hmm. But it does, like, again, it depends. Like we all had our tinfoil hats on a couple weeks back, right? With the API going away and that. And then you see something like this that offers a subscription and a membership fee. And you're like, uh-oh. I'm not sure it's gonna go that far
No,
for
I think they're trying to set up. They would like to set up their own um service where you, if you are a print farm and whatnot, you can manage all that stuff from
mm,
their tools right internally, and you can pay a subscription to them. Maybe, who knows, I don't know if it'll go that far, but like to the point where you now, like Prusa has their online service too that
yeah,
manages their fleet of printers, right? And I think they're trying to do the same thing,
yeah.
right? They want to be able to manage, you have your account, your little tenant or whatever,
Hmm.
that you've got your fleet of 5, 10, however many printers,
Yeah.
and and you can manage it that way. So so I
100%.
I think I understand why they're doing it,
I'm not panicked about it, put
as
it that way.
long as they don't screw the end user that only has one printer. I'm fine. Like
I mean,
I don't have a problem.
I don't mean to say this cynically, but business is always in the business of screwing the end user somehow.
Well,
Whether
they
it's
want
gouging you for prices, materials, product,
as long as they keep selling their stuff, then they'll be happy, right?
right? Gouge away. It's that's pretty cool, Dominic. We're warmer here right now. It's 10 degrees here, which
Our
is
hats haven't been tinfoil since World War II.
now
We
with
wear
less tinfoil.
aluminum foil,
Aluminum.
aluminium foil.
It's 48 degrees here right now. That's what that works out to, Dominic. 48. It's not on the list, but while we're talking about fun things like Bamboo Labs, let's just talk about Prusa for a second. That's the same, right?
Okay, sure.
There's just one thing, and it's kind of cool. Prusa Slicer, the new alpha, adds interlocking part support. Whoa, that almost didn't. So it like it can sequentially print parts inside of your part as it's going. With
Okay, you're gonna
yeah.
have to explain that more because you broke my brain for a sec. So
Sorry about that. So like when you look at, let's see if I can find a good. Let's see if I can find a good example. I'm not sure if I can. Um,
do they have an
so
example on the feature on their README?
I'm trying to find it. They use the Curl Croc from Kira. So hold on, I'll share this again. Hold on. Screen captures. So they use this Curl Croc from Prusa Slicer.
Okay.
Let's see if it's on this page. It might look better. Yeah, here's a good picture. Open image in new tab. Bam! Look at that big picture. So you can see that it has the two parts. So it has the pink part, which is called Kira Croc Clip Rigid, and
Yeah.
that's the pink you see. And then they have this flexible part, which
Oh,
is out
so
of a completely different filament, and
oh,
it
so
will
it
it lets you embed it now right to the print. So
okay.
when you're
So it's still it's multi-material. So you'll have to
mm,
switch. So they print the one piece, and
yeah,
then you
and
switch
then
your
it switches the
material,
material when it needs
you
to.
can print the next layer.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and so then they interlock. So like this center core is probably in this example. I imagine it's flexible like TPU, just says
Right.
flex generic. So I don't know idea, but flexible TPU probably, and then like the rigid could be like your PET-G, ABS, whatever. But this lets you actually create those engineered parts because lots like we've had clips before. Like this is actually a really good example. Like PLA is capable of doing this by itself,
Right.
right? Like you can
Just
spring and stuff.
so this is probably more of an upgrade for their multi-tool material. The multi, like when you got the 5 tools, so that you can do the multi-material on it.
Yeah, like so. I think it's an upgrade, obviously for like their tool changer and all that. But like again, if you can slice it for them, you could probably slice it in it for somebody else and use the feature set.
So we should watch for this coming to the derivatives
It's coming
of
to
Bruce the Slicer, like Bamboo Labs
an
or
Orca.
Orca. Okay, well, we'll keep our eyes out. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, for sure. Speaking of 3D printing processes,
Whoa, segues are great.
there about a year ago, these guys started experimenting with holographic 3D printing, and they showed a demo of it, and you just saw basically a flash of light, and it would spin around an object and then create this in this little cylinder, a little like a thinker. Well, they've got it to the point where now um, they can do a benchy. Now you're going to say, well, that's an ugly looking benchy. Yes, it is.
I did
But
too.
it's also printed at 500 nanometers.
Itty bitty
And
bitty.
and you can actually tell that it's a benchy. so now keep in mind, so they're using lasers, they're using uh a basal lens and a few other refraction techniques to do the holographic generation, and then they spin the cylinder to do the print, and it takes like seconds, like literally it's done in seconds. So this is, again, tiny, not relevant to us yet, but it's really interesting. And David and I were talking before, and he had a good point. Like, in the medical industry and whatnot, like if you were, let's say, you had to reconstruct a bone in like someone's ear, for example, like an eardrum, like this might be the type of technique to be able to reproduce it accurately and tiny, and then be able to implant it or something. So yeah, or we could have little benchies floating around in us in our bloodstream.
This man has microplastics. That's not microplastic, that's benchy.
That's a benchy. Anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting. I don't know how relevant it is to us now, but it's really fascinating when some of these techniques, how quickly they're progressing. Not quite as quickly as AI has progressed in the last 18 months, kind of thing, but it's still, from a year ago to now, they've really refined the process and whatnot. So it'll be interesting as it goes forward. So I thought it was kind of cool and thought we should mention it.
It's a neat process. What happens if you sneeze though after you take it off the printer? It's gone forever. Maybe you'll never find it. It's true, gone.
Yeah,
I think like I see a lot of biomedical, like you said, use for it, especially with some of the new stuff coming out with that. It's already using like the gel printing and sublimation, so it's pretty cool. Held's had a point, the Bamboo Studio, with it. It's kind of their vision to make it like the one stop. I could learn, I could sell, I could buy, and I think that vision's great. Like Thingiverse kind of did that, right? Like you can tip people. I don't know if you can direct sell on Thingiverse, so I think you have to rely on the tipping. Yeah. And by the way, thanks for all the tips, but I don't accept them because I refuse to put my account information in there.
Well, I'll put mine in yours and then take all your tip.
No, my Tiki Idol. It's all my Tiki Idol money. Now, the other thing that's kind of cool, and we don't need to open this. This has been around for a long time, actually, in Fusion 360, is the ability to slice for 3D printers.
And it's not just 3D printers; it's full machining processes.
Well, the slicing is for printers, but it can do the CAM generation.
It does everything where you can run your CNC off of it. Do your full process for that and whatnot.
Yeah, but
they've enhanced it for printing, because it did printing, but it was like,
Yeah, and like I think it was probably 4 years ago now. It's been there a while. They started with adding actually the Ender 3 Creality stuff.
Yeah.
And then you could slice it. The trick is this is all offline though. It was slice, save to SD card, walk it to your printer, and then print. So what they've done, and to be clear, you could always add a custom printer, like Greg said. You could add any kind of machine you want. You just have to tell it the dimensions and kind of like the tool
wasn't super easy. You had to kind of jump through some hoops and really wrap your head around it.
Again, great it's a robust tool, but what they've done now is added Bamboo Lab printers to it. So
now
they can
will you have to run the new Bamboo tool in order to send to
they only support this in offline mode, which means you're walking this SD card from the computer.
SneakerNet.
the other thing as well is they currently don't support the AMS, so
Oh, boo.
there's no multicolor printing with this. So, like, if your workflow is in Fusion, the chances are you're not multicolor. Like, if you're
Yeah.
designing structural, you're not multicolor printing. I suppose it would be cool to print an object, like, you know how it can do the strength analysis and stuff.
Yeah.
It would be cool to be able to print physically, like, the stress analysis, so somebody could pick up like a bridge part
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
see, like, you know, like understand, like, see here, this color means these are all the stressors,
Yeah.
and like
And typically,
that'd
I'm
be
not
cool.
printing. If I'm printing multiple materials, I'm printing multiple parts in multiple separate materials. I'm not printing multiple materials in one part.
Yeah.
Typically, if I'm designing something in Fusion, because they're individual items, like because you can add your screws in there, you can do a number of things to
Yeah.
get your whole model to make sure that okay, it mechanically moves the way I want it, and it doesn't interact with this piece because this
Yep.
one's fixed. This one, so you can do a lot of technical analysis before you actually print, and then you can
Hmm.
then once you've done that, you can print your object, and then it actually works. See, like that.
Yeah. And like Hal says too, probably just protection prototyping in black and white, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
I think, like, and that's what Fusion is trying to do. Like, first, it doesn't, Fusion doesn't give any 2 cents about your CNC mill or your 3D printer.
No,
They're worried
the
about the
object.
design and the object, right? And how, but the nice to haves is it does do cam, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and it's going to be there through the whole software. Like, they're not going to remove that feature, but as it grows, they might change it. And
It's
I'm not
nice.
sure if this is an online feature only, like in, like,
Yeah.
the Fusion website, or if it's only through the app. Because, like,
I'll have to
uh,
launch Fusion and have a look
yeah,
and
it's
whatnot.
something that just came out too. Like, this is weeks, maybe 1 or 2 weeks old.
Yeah.
It is something that's worth playing with. Like, I did use the Ender one once, and I was like, okay, it worked, but I don't know the slicing engines, right? Like, so that's the thing. Like, all the other slicers could share the Arachne engine, or
Right.
and
And
this
and
who
and that's
knows
the
what, I
thing,
don't know
right?
what
Like
this is.
it's good enough for basic stuff. It may not be able to do one of the flexi whatevers very well.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
that's, and yes, helps. They're trying to keep it all on the same screen, just with the workflow. And I agree.
yep.
Like, it's a good way to run business, and they charge a lot for their software, so it
Yep.
probably should be that way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. And open source is in trouble, I hear.
Is it ever? Yeah. So the full title of this point that on the list is "Open Source is in Trouble and the Community is Killing It," and it's true. The community is killing it, and thankfully, I don't feel like I'm one of the community anymore. Um,
Your favorite word.
yeah. Here's the thing. I've ranted a little bit about the community, but let's talk about community first, then we'll talk about how it's killing open source. The community often is a bunch of bullies on Reddit or Facebook groups. When somebody asks an innocent question, they give the most obtuse answers. Hey, why did my print fail? And then,
We need
instead
to
of,
level your bed.
yeah, or you suck, quit 3D printing, that's why your print failed. Right?
Yeah.
Like, those are the gambits. Level your bed, or you're the worst human being in existence. And like, level your bed is a good answer for the first 2 months of your 3D printing life. And then after that, they're probably asking serious questions, right? Like, hey, why isn't this sticking? And the answer isn't level your bed. It's because you keep switching materials, and the one material can't stick to the material that was on the bed last. Or, right, there's more going on than just level your bed to all 3D
When
printing
was the last time you
problems.
cleaned your bed?
The answer to both those things is I don't think I've leveled a bed in like a year or cleaned
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I just keep adding this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Um, no cleaning required. Just give it a
Not
shake.
sponsored.
No, not sponsored. So, I mean, like the community is pretty toxic. Most internet communities are toxic, to be frank. Like, there's not a lot of friendly
They
people
can
that.
be. They can be. Like you that if you just have a small group of people that you know, then that's different. Like you can support each other, right? And
That's it. Yeah.
that's like our Patreon.
And well, yeah,
Right?
welcome to the Metro of our channel. If you ask for help, I'm never going to be rude to you. And
Yeah.
that's why I say I don't feel like we're part of the community because we actually take time to thoughtfully process what you're telling us and give you a response that is dignified of an actual human being and not somebody. And like the problem is deep rooted throughout the internet, right? If you're faceless, you don't have to be careful about what you're saying. You feel empowered, and you feel like what you can say is anonymous, so I can say what I want. And so the community would be um, would be a healthier place if I think one, people were more kind, and two, um, people did use the search button before they posted something. And I'm not saying that they have to. I'm just saying to avoid it, you should use
Yeah.
the search a forum first, because that's one of like the community's pet peeves, right? Did you actually even look in the search or in the FAQ? And so, like, do your due
So
diligence and
yeah, so and some people, they get to a community forum or whatever, and they don't know where anything is yet. So
yeah,
that's
they're
why
new,
they're asking the question. And
and
so, yeah,
that's the community. And I consider all of the most of the people like our regulars and then other folks too that come. Like I feel like you guys are above the pettiness and again, um, all of that kind of nonsense. Now, let's flip back to how the community is killing open source. So, I guess open source kind of first existed for software and programming. That's
that's
kind of
true.
where it came about from, right? Because
And
I
then
could
they
write,
went into some
yeah,
hardware.
I could write a line of code, and Greg doesn't know how to write that code, but I said, hey, you can borrow my code, and Greg's like, sweet, right?
Please.
And then he uses my code, right? And so that's kind of how the application of open source started, and then well, I forget the Adrian something. He's the guy.
Adrian Brody or Adrian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
He
the
the rep rap.
pre-janitor. He
Or Adrian,
he
yeah.
he started RepRap. He was the man that said, "I want to build this 3D printing thing," and so he built the first RepRap printer that didn't look much like anything you've seen. It was a box
The
with
was it the Prindle? Was it print or
I forget what the first one was called. Um, I can look it up. But anyway, it was close to what a RepRap printer is now.
well, and
Um,
then Joseph Prusa said, "Well, I should be able to do that," and so he took
one
that design and went off on his own.
and then and more and then um after that you had another company, Creality, uh see and there was, okay, to be fair, there was a few at the same time, but Creality did it better. Um but they took that design, the Prusa, the i3 kind of idea, and they took it and they made it into what the CR10 platform is. So you
Yeah,
had the steel, or instead of like using the acrylic or like
they
wood,
commercialized
even
it.
they commercialized it. So we had cut aluminum that was cheap, right? That stuff is like, it boggles your mind, but it's cheap. So we had this cut aluminum frame, and it continues to change now. But what happened is like CR10 came, and then we had like Ender 3, or was it? I think it was the Ender 3 first. I
Yeah, it was
think,
the CR10 and then Ender 3, and then
and then
Prusa then started making later on, because it was free first, and Helge points that out, that it was, he made his design free to begin with, that everyone else started doing it. He did design his own heat bed and stuff that he sold and whatnot, and then
yeah.
he went into the point where he started selling printers that he designed that weren't open source at that point.
Yeah, and so fast forward to now, and we went from somewhere where um, you had a printer that Adrian made, and then you had multiple clones off that. They almost looked like Core XY, right? But then you take it down, and like you mentioned, Prusa had open. Prusa still, you can go download all the parts, print them, and source like all of the other hardware that you can't print.
I
But
don't. I'm not sure about their
that's
Core
the
One, but
no. Like I know the i3 you can do, but then and here's where the divergence happens, and this is why the community is kind of killing the open source thing. Is we are expecting it from everything. The community at large thinks 3D printing in general is all open sourced. That's how it is, right? This should be open source because I'm
Bamboo's firmware is not open source.
well. And that's why,
Bruce's firmware is not open source.
and that's why we as a community are killing open sourcedness, and it's not a bad thing necessarily, but 3D printing has become commercialized. And I know, like Dominic, even this week was talking about, I'm going to build a Voron, right? And so there are those projects still
Yep,
outside of the main companies that
that are
can build.
very successful and very good printers and whatnot.
Yep.
Um, but now you can buy a fully finished supported printer for less or the same, not custom sized like Voron,
Yeah.
but that prints straight out of the box.
So what I would argue for
Fast.
is open source is dying, and it is companies that are producing these things that, like Greg said, we can afford them, and they just work right away. I don't have to spend 15 hours building a Voron and that kind of thing. Greg, was it something we said, Greg?
I'm back. I don't know what happened.
He didn't want to talk to us anymore.
All of a sudden, the screen went away. I'm like, I didn't do anything.
So here's the thing. I would argue that open platform should be now the word we spread in the 3D community. 3D printing community. Open source can be firmware, but open platform is probably a more apt term to what we should move towards if we want to keep community-driven projects and community-driven innovation in 3D printing.
I think both have their place. I really do. I don't think everything needs to be open sourced, right? I do think that there are certain processes and proprietary things that people design that it's okay if they're not open source, right?
Yep.
I get that they designed it, they put all the effort in and whatnot, but there's certain other areas, like for example, our slicers, right? The development of new features, like someone has a need for a feature and they develop a feature and then give it to the community so it can be integrated in to all of these different slicers. I think that's great. Like, and I think that's what you're kind of getting to, right, David? It's like it doesn't have to be one thing or the other, but yeah, it's not just open source doesn't just cut it anymore. It's a little more complex than that.
Yeah. And so I think, like we say, the community is killing open source, and it very much is because they don't understand what open source truly means. But and Helch has the point too, where it's It's prevent the manufacturers and stuff. It's preventing people to sell the stuff they actually didn't make and write on the backs of other people, and
That's
and
true.
and, and that's a very good point. And
Yep.
like the iteration is great, and we depend upon it as a human race to move forward in time. Greg already mentioned AI. If you think back 30 years, we didn't have cell phones, right? 20 years before that, it was still black and white
We
TVs.
had cell phones 30 years ago.
Okay, but
I
there were
was selling
thousands
them.
of, yeah, there were thousands of dollars.
Really? How much was your
Well, I
latest
guess it was
iPhone?
95.
How much did your latest iPhone cost?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to remember what the first Nokia phone was.
I
It
used to
was
sell
some like eight
bag
grand.
phones for 300
Yeah.
bucks. So it's yeah.
iPhone cornered the market. But like the point is like as we have moved on, like we've had evolutions in everything from 3D printing to internet to other technologies. And
Absolutely.
it's all been of innovation and pivoting off of the backs of something that came before it.
Yeah. And
Um
open source allows you to build on top of it, not have to rebuild it from scratch and have it similar but different, right?
and
You can
again,
now
I think that term open source, when it applies to objects, should be open platform.
yeah.
And you're because yeah, like you say, you can build on top of it,
So
but
some
it's a
it
platform, not
then you don't have to re-engineer the wheel when
yeah,
someone already built the wheel. Now you can add a doodad onto the wheel.
exactly. And then you add a doodad on that, and then it's gas powered or whatever. And like the
Ray still
history
has his
has.
bag phone in the basement.
I think there's a bag phone here somewhere too. Honestly, the thing is like as we move forward in our 3D printing journey, companies that have taken time, for example, like use Bamboo Labs as an example, they took multicolor material and basically gave it to the masses. And then the problem is when they do that, the other 74 Chinese companies in the same building, they're like, oh, that looks sweet. I'm going to do it too. Right. And so then they have to stand out. So then the way to do that is make sure that their platform always works better than the other. But to do that, they have to make sure that you can't fiddle with the firmware. Right. And
That's true.
or send invalid code over API to your printer, that kind of stuff.
And
Um,
Dominic has a good point that
yeah.
a company that does spend the time developing something, they have a right to protect it and
Hmm.
whatnot. Um, and if you have a proprietary process that you have developed, absolutely. Like I think that's kind of the way the world goes round.
And like Justin has a good point here, but isn't bamboo built on the backs of Clipper and Prusa? 100% it is. The slicer, yeah, is based off
Uh,
of
I don't
the
know if the Clipper side of things. I don't think bamboo's built off of Clipper.
well,
I think
here's the
they're.
when they
We don't
broke
know
it, it
that.
was a when they broke it was a Clipper derivative.
Was it?
Yep. When they broke it wide
Oh, see,
open
I
years
didn't know
ago.
that piece.
So but they weren't able to see exactly what flavor and stuff. But like the the thing
Yeah,
is like you can't be mad at a company for rolling open source projects into their end
well,
user product
yeah, I
because
think Justin has a good point. Like the whole point of open source is you when you modify it, you give back to the community. You don't take the part of the licensing is you can't close source it. So
yeah.
if they've done that, that's bad. Like
Well, Creality
that
did it for years. Remember, like
yeah,
before,
they wouldn't release their firmware
yeah.
and whatnot, and we had to fight with them to do it.
And
Um,
then there was also Prusa had done it. I'm trying to remember the other one.
yeah,
I mean,
it
the
does happen from
K1C
time
is an
to time.
example as well. because
Yeah.
the normal K1C firmware is not available for you.
That's true.
You cannot see it uncompiled. However, since it's Clipper and you can unroot it, you can
You
get the
can,
config files and stuff out of it.
yeah,
And
which
you can tell it's fluid. I just don't know if they've changed something in the background,
they've
right?
done something to it because they've crippled some of the features out of it. Like they trimmed it down to what they needed and
Yeah,
no more.
on their interface, and that's
Right?
actually a really good part about Clipper. You can strip it right out to just what you want. Gonna say thanks for joining. Like, share, and subscribe. We're not quite done, but like, share, and
Yeah.
subscribe. Do the
Yeah.
things. I think when it comes to open source, as long as the attribution moves with it, it's fine. But again, open source should apply to software. I
Yeah.
feel the use of it on hardware platforms like printers is a little bit of a misnaming it, and that's a
Yeah.
lot of confusion, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. But
But
yeah. Thanks for everyone. We've had a great chat going on in the live chat here. Thanks, Justin, Helge, Dominic, and Ray, and everyone who's in the chat. Feel free. Like when we're doing one of the live streams, we love interacting with everyone that's in the chat. So please join us whenever you're on the live stream. And when do we do our live stream, David?
I don't know, 10 Mountain Standard Time every Sunday usually.
Yeah.
So back next
Unless
week.
yeah, unless something weird is going on with one of our families that we just can't do it. But sometimes
Yeah,
we do
we'll
it
work.
independently.
Yeah, the Independent Show, David or Greg. So yeah, thanks for coming. We sure appreciate you. If you wanted to get any of our information, including the Patreon, you can go to www.3dmakeit.ca. You can find all our social stuff there. We look forward to adding more and continuing the journey.
Yeah.
But until next week, my friends, we will see you later.
Bye.
Bye.